Hello, my name is Trevor Birch, and this is Stories of Tricking, Episode 3. Today, we will be hearing the stories of Will Coneys and Taka Sakurai. They are both trickers who use their tricks in unique ways in order to express themselves more fully. If tricking is a form of expression, is tricking an art form? And how do these athletes use tricking to express themselves? I guess we'll just have to watch and find out. Last time on the Stories of Tricking.
There's a quote that says, love the process just as much as you love the prize. So the process of getting to that trick, it can be frustrating, but that builds character. You'll get that prize and you'll appreciate it. But the process, you'll remember that forever.
I'm able to actually pursue other things outside of tricking due to the lessons that tricking has taught me. It's taught me how to be patient, how to really care about something. And so I think that's a really vital skill that tricking allows you to practice as well. It allows you to practice giving a fuck.
This is Tricking Public Television, brought to you by trickers like you. Thank you.
Nature, art, society. These are all things that make up our day-to-day lives. Some say that art is an imitation of life. But I say that art is my life. Welcome to Guillaume's Art and Society. There are many forms of art in this world, including theater, sculpture, music, and one of my favorites of all times, visual arts. A visual delicacy by the artist tricker Will Coneys. It is an oil on canvas and a true body of expression. There is so much emotion and energy, it practically jumps off the canvas.
My name is William Thomas Coneys, or better known as Will Coneys, or better known as Kid Wolf Coneys. I am 32, I am from Arlington, Virginia, and I've been tricking for a little over 13, 14 years now. I got into tricking really I started doing it kind of backyardish. I was watching Power Rangers at the time, and I was like 6 or 7. And so I just kind of taught myself how to do some of the movements, and then watching gymnastics and everything else and cheerleading on TV, I kind of just stayed with it. I kept working on it, just doing my own thing. And then maybe when I was about 14 or so, I met my now friends and my now teammates, and they taught me and they showed me that what I was doing was something called tricking. And it wasn't until maybe about I was like 15, 16 that I started doing Taekwondo. And then as soon as I did that, it just stayed. I was just learning the movements as they were really called, and then from there, the rest is history. I just stayed with it. It was a really beautiful thing to find because it helped me to kind of know and do everything that I was already doing, just with more of a kind of a proper understanding. In the best sense, it was what helped me to kind of understand life in itself. When I started tricking, I was going through an extremely kind of rough time. I had lost a few of the pretty much pillars of my life within the span of 2 months. And the more that I got into tricking, the more that I realized this was where my whole mindset, my whole life path. This is what was going to help me bringing all of that to life, into fruition, into vision. And, you know, through everything in life, it's always been something that when I come back to it, it teaches me more than most other things. Like I played baseball for when I was younger, I played football, and I've done like little sports here and there, but tricking was always the one thing that helped me to either find peace or it would aggravate me enough to understand why I was aggravated, and it would help me to let go of that, release that. And then by traveling and kind of building a reputation in the community, it allowed me to travel to different places and understand that tricking in itself is just an extension of the journey of life. You know, like with anything, life is forever changing. That's the only constant in life. It's ever changing. And our tricks are ever changing. They're never the same. They may look the same and they may feel the same, but they're never the same. Each time you do let's say each time you do a 540, it changes. It's never the same. It's always either going to be better, it's going to be a little bit different, it's going to have a little bit more style every single time you do it. And because of that understanding, I've stayed with tricking because tricking has taught me to be accepting of the change of life and be at peace with that. And it's given me the ability to go out and do different things and explore myself through those other things and meet new people, new opportunities, new concepts, new perspectives. That's why I stay with it, because I know that by staying with it, I'll be able to pass down all of these other areas of life through that movement and through my own coaching and teaching, and that's what makes me happy. So I've always stayed with it. So I feel that with my style, as I kind of progressed in tricking, I've realized there were things that people wanted to do, but just were scared to, because the way that I trick, I'd go for the unknown stuff that everybody thinks is really sketch and you're not supposed to do even within tricking. And I explored it. I stepped into that unknown, you know, and when I stepped into that unknown, I found that there was a balance in that unknown. And that's really where my style came from. It's unknown concepts and doing things that nobody really would have thought about and bringing them to life. And even now, you know, I still doing that, you know, even though it may not be like the biggest stuff in the world, but it's stuff that nobody would have ever really thought to do or would have really given the chance to try, because it's either, you know, it's too small or too, you know, kind of basic. Those basic movements, if you step into them fully and you step into the unknown areas of the basics, you find a lot more variations. You find a lot more understanding. You find a lot more style. So that's why I think my style is different, is because I never stopped looking into everything. I don't care if I do, you know, like full in back outs or trip corks. I love doing them, but they're an extension of the basics that I really, really just delve deep into. And I'm still finding new ways to work with those and transform those and bring those into different aspects to teach it to different people. And I've also realized that my style has had a tendency to help people who may or may not understand kind of the mainstream way of tricking or movement itself, and it gives them a chance to look outside of just the normal box of where everything is. Once you look outside of that box, you find power, you find technique, you find different ideas and creative kind of nuances that you would have never thought about because you were set in this one specific area. So I know that when I started tricking, I was a big power kid. Like I literally just trained power moves all the time. And it wasn't until maybe about 6, 7 years ago that I remembered going back to kicks, because I came from a Taekwondo background. So my kicks, you know, for me, I wanted them to be up to the standard of Taekwondo. And I didn't have that. And so I literally spent, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years working the basics of those kicks until now they look the way they do now. And I found that when I did that, I went back to the basics of TDRs, of corks, of, cartfuls, of anything. And I retrained and re-looked at every basic technique. And then I realized, okay, I've been doing it this way for so long that I don't really know what to do with it. So now I'm going to break it back down, look for something else to either inspire it or add on to it, and then rebuild it again. And I go through those periods every so often. Biggest example was maybe last year. I was working on tumbling and my brain literally just disconnected in the middle of the air and I dropped out. And I couldn't bring myself to do tumbling for a solid, 2.5 weeks. And it wasn't until I stopped, redid the basics down completely, that my tumbling came back. And it came back a lot more comfortable, came back a lot stronger. And then I started doing a lot more with it and feeling it a lot more. To now, I love my tumbling and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna re-break everything down again and fix it again. And that process helps to keep me, interested in the basics, because the basics will then lead you to the bigger intermediate stuff and then the more advanced stuff. And the more you keep training the basics, the more that intermediate, advanced and higher level will change, because it'll change with different movements. And that's why I love watching the basics and retraining them, because the minute you do that is the minute you open up 1,000 more doors to 1,000 different power levels and 1,000 different variations of it. So the basics are the fundamental building blocks, and I love playing with the building blocks. I get this question a lot, and it always changes. Personally, I would like to see tricking just be tricking. That's it. Because right now, tricking is in a weird place where, you've got people on one side trying to make a living off of it. You've got people on one side trying to keep the community of it. And every sport has gone through this. Every sport has had that phase. And the big issue is that we're all so focused on where we want it to be that we've stopped focusing on just letting it be. Tricking in itself is like everything else in the world. It's gonna change. There's no other option. It's changed from when it first started. It's changed dramatically. It's gone through a kicking phase. It's gone through a twisting phase. It's gone through a style phase. It's gone through community versus money phase, money and status phase. It's gonna keep doing that. No matter what we say, no matter what we do, it's never going to not happen. If we just allow tricking to be as we personally would like it to be, that erases all of that weird tension or weird division, and tricking just becomes what it was meant to be. Expression. Movement. Understanding. Life. That's where I want to see it be, because once we start doing that, tricking will become a lot more understood. It'll become a lot more accepted. The community in itself will not really have that division. It's essentially, it's like having an opinion. Two people will have an opinion. You may not like the other person's opinion, but as long as you can respect it and be at peace with it, you get along fine. You understand. You connect more. You have a better understanding of people. And I think that's where I would love to see tricking, is tricking just be tricking, and it go wherever it's supposed to go for that person, for the community, for anybody who wants to do it, because that's what we started to do. That's what it was. That's what came of it. That's what we felt with it, and that's where it needs to go back to. And I think it's on a good path to that now. I think people are now starting to just understand that tricking is what it is. It's it's just going to change. And the more you can be at peace with that and just be at peace with yourself in tricking, the easier it becomes, and the more we just go back to being, you know, how we've always wanted to be and how we've always been.
There is no room in the box for art. There is no room in art for the box. Just like in art, in life, we cannot live in the box. Let me show you a body of art that is outside of the box. This is the soul of the tricker, a painting by Taka Sakurai.
I'm Taka, 27 years old and 5 years tricking. I'm from Japan. 僕は5年前体操してたんですけど、その時にウィル・コニーズのビデオをたまたま発見して、それを見て体操よりもこっちのスポーツトリッキングの方が面白そうだなと思ってトリッキングを始めました。体操は採点競技なのですごいこう何をすれば有利なのかっていうのがもう結構僕が始めた頃には明確に決まっちゃってて、つまりどういうことかっていうとやっぱりこう選手たちの中で流行りだったりこうしたら点数が出るっていう組み合わせがあることで個々人の個性がすごい出にくくなっててみんな同じことをするっていうところが僕はちょっとあまり好きじゃなくって。その点もその時見たトリッキングっていうのはみんなスタイルがあってみんな好きなことをやってて僕の目にはすごく魅力的に映りました。僕は結構その人と違うことをやるのが好きだった時代があって多分この少年時代とかにあまりこう褒められた経験がなく、それはなんか僕の能力が低いから褒められないっていうよりもその親だったり周りの人だったりに結構叱られて育ったのでそのみんながやってることを子どもの頃はやりなさいやりなさいって言われるのが日本の感性なんですけど僕はそれに対してすごい反骨心を持っててその過去が多分僕に人と違うことをやらせようとさせてるのかなと思います。でその中でこうその自分の特性を受け入れてでその自分の特性プラス自分がかっこいいなって思ったことをこう取り入れつつ ていった結果、スタイルがユニークにはなりました。あとは多分ちょっとユニークにしたぐらいであんまり満足できなくって、1つか2つの技がユニークな組み合わせであっても、それは誰かにすぐ真似されちゃうし、自分の色も出しにくいと思うので、3つ4つ5つぐらいのセットアップだと思ってコンボを組んでると、すごいいつの間にか人と違うことをしています。トリッキングに対する仕事がまだたくさんあるなとは思ってて、それを一個一個解消していくのが今の僕の情熱です。昔は例えば3年前フューリー出た時とかはもう頑張って世界一になろうと思ってたんですけど、今は勝ち負けとかはあんまり割とどうでもよく、関心がなくて、すごい自分の能力の一番到達点にあるものは何なんだろうなって求めながらやってます。私はトリッキングを使って映像の仕事とか、自分が俳優として映像に出る仕事とかを結構、受けてたりするんですけど、そういうところにトリッキングが進出していくのはすごいいいことだし、それがこっからの5年間の課題、それを普通のことにしていくっていうのがこれからの5年間の課題かなって思ってます。そうした先に、例えばオリンピックだの、スポンサーがいろんなところからつく選手が現れるだのっていう、世間一般から見た時の分かりやすい成功があると思うので、やっぱり僕はこの年でトリッキングやってるので、27でトリッキングやってるので、今結構業界のために考えることっていうのは、自分がいろいろと仕事をして、それを普通のことにして、下の世代の子たちがトリッキングをやってるだけで、お金を稼げたり、名刺にありつけたり、人に認められたりしやすくなってくれることがすごい大事かなと思っているので、5年間でどこで見たいですかって言われたら、やっぱりテレビ、映像、あとはアーティストのバックステージで、今もすでにそういう活動をしてる人は結構たくさんいて、自分もその一人だけど、それをもっと数を多くするとか、今やってることよりももっとクリエイティブな使い方をディレクター側の人に考えてもらうまでにトリッキングを認知させていくっていうのが、僕の目標であり、トリッキング界のこれからの課題であり、5年後そうなってるといいなっていうことなのかなって思います。
Tricking is an art form of the body and mind. It is an imitation of life in the form of change in movement and mental challenge. Tricking is an art form that can't be conformed to a single box and allows for infinite creativity. The only limit is our mind. But I think that as the years go on, we'll break that barrier of the mind and have tricking thrive. Only time will tell what tricking will become in the future.